Okay, so we were able to use hot water to fold up the sides, and we're using our camp clips that we made in another video in order to hold the pieces in place while we manipulate the sides and let it dry. So I'm gonna let it dry a little bit, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna stitch the sides together so that they stay together permanently. But I'm gonna let this dry for a little bit, and then we'll come back to that. Alright, so here is the bowl so far, and I've got the ends stitched in to start to hold it together. Alright, and I used the bone awl that we created in a video prior to this one to drill the holes, and then I'm using artificial sinew to lash them in. So, and again, remember we have our clips, our camp clips, holding it together while it dried a little bit, and now it becomes a little bit more solid. On this side, I've got just tacked it down here and here. I believe in the original class, we just tacked it down here. I don't remember if we tacked it up here, but this helps kind of secure and make sure things don't slide. These edges, this wing should match with the top of the side here, like so. So I'm gonna, just for the sake of this video and for demonstration, I'm gonna go ahead and drill a hole using a bone awl, and then we're going to thread through. And I use artificial sinew here. I use this stuff, which is basically waxed nylon. It's supposed to resemble resemble real sinew. This is real sinew right here, and in a way it kind of does. At least it looks that way. And this is flat, so what I'm able to do is I can split it and make it to smaller pieces. So if you choose to get some artificial sinew, like at the craft or leather store, make sure you get the kind that's flat. There's kind that is more round. They're harder to split, and you want to get this kind. But I'm gonna use actual real backstrap sinew here that I got from Moscow Hide and Fur, and this elk sinew, and we're gonna basically use this as our lashing. So let's see here, and again, there's our camp clip, has using a rubber band. The other ones that I have are using just regular twine cordage, and they work more like they just kind of slip on here and they hold everything into place. So they're quite handy, All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna attach my awl, and this awl was made from I don't know, I think it's chicken bone, what is it, ulna. This is the big part, not the smaller part, which is the radii, the side that goes onto the base of the palm, but the big one. And so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and try to match up and slide the camp clip over there a little bit, and then I'm gonna go down and I'm gonna just start to drill a hole. Now I may not show all of it because it kind of takes a little bit of while, but what I can do is I can just kind of start right about here, and I'm just going back and forth and applying pressure forward to bore the hole that I need. A little time consuming, but it works. Till I can feel it poking through on the other side. And then when I feel it poking through on the other side between these two layers, I can kind of go in on the other side here and poke it from the inside. But I want to just make sure that this is, hold these together and make sure that this is really going into the other side so I can see it and then meet it from the other side. Okay, so here we have it. I can take my clips off. They serve their purpose for now. And so I'm using actual real elk tendon or sinew, and I've lashed this at the top and I've lashed it on the side, and I've lashed them on the top and on the sides here all the way around the container. And even as is, rustically, this would be perfectly serviceable as a container of some sort. If I wanted to make it watertight, that's where you use pine pitch and a little bit of tallow mixed in together, and you seal the edges or any cracks. And technically, this would be stitched, so this would actually look like a sewing machine stitched it. So I would use that kind of stitching and then cover the stitching with the tallow pine pitch mixture here and here and wherever there might be additional cracks and stuff. And it'll start to look like a birch bark canoe, which is how that is done. So I'm gonna go ahead and snip these pieces. Let's snip this off here, so we can leave that. And I can just set that sinew aside for something else. And there we go. So that step is done. The bone all work perfectly fine. You just make a stout tip is all it is. And I have a piece of sandpaper here. I can always kind of touch up or sharpen it when I need to. And then this spun dogbane cordage as a lanyard was quite handy and useful. So that worked out. And so this is what we have, and we're now ready to put the rim on. Alright, so we're ready to put the rim on our bowl here. And again, like I keep saying, it's pretty much ready as is. I mean, you can use it just like this. It's perfectly serviceable. But we're going to embellish it with a kind of a red dogwood rim that I've already bent to shape, and we're going to just fit it around. We're going to mark out some holes and stuff and then sew it into place. And again, this is just an embellishment. It actually does make the bowl a little bit sturdier. Yeah, we still have to do a little bit more processing to the rim, at least the way that I cut it here. For the original item here, Dennis Chilcote had already kind of shaped the rim that was provided, and you can see the joining point here, which was cool. And all we had to do was fill in the insides here with sweet grass and then stitch it into place. So what I'm doing is I'm emulating that, but with natural materials and through a natural process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reconstitute this rim so that it is more flexible and easier to work with. And then we're going to have to do some shaving and shaping, at least on the connecting ends. There will be a little bit of work on this to do, but the end result will be worth it. So I unwrapped everything and I made sure we split these and we bent these. They're pretty much bent into shape. We have an inside rim that'll fit inside of our bowl here. And then we have an outside rim that fits outside of our bowl here, like this. But we got to make sure that these are going to connect properly. So what I have to do now is I have to do some shaving, right? I have to do a lot of shaving because this is just not going to match up together and be very elegant, or at least as elegant as we can get it. So there's a lot of mass, and I'll do it this way. A lot of mass on this side here, on this one. So I'm going to just start shaving off mass on this one and driving it to a point. And I can take my blade here, my cutting tool, and really that's just what it is. You just start shaving off pieces, just whittling, right? So that's really what I'm going to spend this time doing, and shaping this down and trying to basically tame it down so I can bend this properly and it'll conform so it overlaps in a nice round way. Okay, whittling on this side versus whittling on this side. All right, I didn't really touch too much on the back side, and I could have a little bit. And you can get it pretty thin if you want to, you know, so that they definitely, so they can definitely mesh. But what you want to do is slide these on to each other. Oops, daisy. And as long as they're nice and moist and pliable, then they bend upon each other, and you should have a nice ring. All right, and that's important with what we're going to do. It's a little tight up in here, so I'm gonna shape it up in here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to fit this inside of our bowl, and this will be the inner ring. We will have to do the same sort of work on the outer ring, so that they can interlock to each other like this, and we should be good. All right, so using the clamp clips to hold the pieces in place, the rim pieces in place inside and outside, after soaking in some water a little bit, probably for about a half hour, with actual boiling water on top of it to make sure that the wood is nice and pliable as we're working with this, and try to put it, mold it to the shape that we need. Alright, so with the help of our camp clips, we've got our outer ring kind of pegged into place. I want a little bit of a lip above the birch bark rim, so that we will have a filler, and that's very important. So again, this is kind of primitive, so we have to be ginger a little bit, and kind of position these in the proper space, just, you know, a quarter of an inch or just above the rim, like so, right? So I've got my marking tool, aka a pencil, and I want to just lightly kind of draw a perimeter just right underneath the rim. All right, because this is going to be our line of demarcation for making our holes to stitch the rim on. So again, you know, from a primitive standpoint, you'd use, you know, some charcoal or something like that, or you can eyeball it, you know, it doesn't really matter. But now we can kind of take this off, and the next step is we're going to punch holes using our line of demarcation. You won't be able to see this on the camera because I'm using a pencil on this birch bark, the brown part of the birch bark, and it'll give us an opportunity to actually punch the holes in about a quarter of an inch apart all the way around, and that's what we will use to stitch our rim on. Alright, so we've sized out our rim and found out approximately from the top of the lip of the container here about where we're going to put holes in approximately a quarter of an inch apart. And you may not be able to see it. In fact, I'm pretty sure you can see it, but I've kind of outlined this, kind of checked off with my writing tool here. In this case, some graphite, which easily rubs off, and you know, you can't really see it unless you know what you're looking for. Primitively, obviously, you'd use a piece of charcoal or something like that to mark your line, so you know where you're going to be punching your holes. And so I've got my awl here, and I'm just going to take my awl here, and I'm just going to kind of start to drill in my holes. And this will take some time if you're using an awl, and that's not a big deal, no big deal. You just take your time. So I'm going through 2 layers here. There we go, we're on the other side of that. And then about a quarter of an inch over, I'm going to do another one. So again, we're just going to make holes all the way around. I'm not going to film the whole process, just to give you an idea of what the next step's going to be, because what we're going to do, the intention is to lash on the inner and outer rims, and then we would be done. So we're almost done with the project. I've got this hole drilled in, and I'm just going to drill in another one and just go all the way around the lip of the container. So now that we've got the holes punched all the way around, about 1/4 of an inch apart, it sometimes helps for the next step, which is going to be threading our cordage through, to take a sharpened stick or toothpick to help keep the holes open for you. That also will help. Extra step, but it makes it easier. So we're going to fit our rim in, and then we're going to start to stitch. Alright, so we're going to fit our rim onto the container here. And so what I'm going to do is, let's see, I got to find the one that's on the inside, which is this one. I'm going to take this out, our camp clip, and then I'm going to squeeze this together. I'm going to carefully size this inside of our container. That's about right. We'll start to manipulate this as we go. So we've got this in on the inside, like so. So we've got this on the inside. We're going to start to give it a little bit more structure there. And now we want to fit the rim on the outside. And I don't want the seams to go where they connect. I don't want them to go on the same side. I kind of, if anything, want them to be opposite from one another. Okay. So we can take this, and this fits right on the outside here. And then this is where we'll need our camp clips again. But we want this up just a little bit. Okay, so for the finished piece here that I'd done some years ago, you see that there's some braiding that's in here, and that's used using either sweetgrass or sedges, if I remember correctly. Right now I don't have any of that. It's early spring, and all the dry grass that would be out there right now would be pretty brittle. But I do have some cattail cordage that I had twisted some years ago that I'm gonna use. So I've just measured the length around our bowl, and I'm just gonna cut what I need here, and that's gonna be used as the filler for this project. I reckon you could use leather or cloth, or another type of grass or cordage to fit in there. Twine should work as a different tool. So this is going to be one of the other pieces that we're going to need, and we're going to start to stuff in between the rim and stitch on the rim. Okay, first what I want to do is I want to go ahead and thread my lashing or my cordage through and around a couple of times to tie it off, and then we'll start to stitch around as we feed in our filler. Okay, this is more of a close-up here. As you can see, I just basically lashed on a couple of times around at the beginning, and then I tucked in my my twine cattail. Now this could be a little bit thicker, but I'm okay with it, or I could have doubled it up. It's not a big deal. Alright, so we've got this pretty much almost locked into place. I could have used a smaller diameter branch for a rim. I mean, I don't mind a rustic look, but if I really wanted things to be really, really pretty, then I could have went with a smaller diameter. Could have doubled up on the cordage insert here just for some of the thicker spots and stuff. But other than that, it's dialing in for the most part. And so that we're almost done. And to come to the end, and we're just going to finish it off, tie it off, and hide the knot underneath the inside rim here. So this is what it looks like so far. This is how we're stitching on the rim. Okay, we're about done. I've got this stitched in. I've come to the other end with our filler here. I'm just gonna snip this here, tuck it in, and then gonna knot the thread and make sure that it with just a bunch of half hitches, double half hitches, and then pull it tight and then tuck it underneath here. Okay, so here's the finished piece. The stitching could have been better. I could have used a smaller diameter branch for the rim, but other than that, I'm okay with it. It turned out not an exact replica of what I did some years ago, but the concept's the same. And again, this is a machined rim. And I don't exactly remember all of the exact steps that we did. I didn't take notes back then. This is a little bit before my full journey into bushcrafting and wilderness survival and stuff. So, but with that knowledge over the years, I was able to kind of fill in some of the blanks and at least produce or develop a process to come as close as I can to what Dennis had taught us how to make back in 2007. So let's see. Anyways, I hope this works for you. Yeah, this turned out pretty good, and it's much more sturdier, got much more form, and it's more of a hardcore container. Feels just like Tupperware. So there you go. Primitive is not worse. It's not worse. It's just first. So as a side note, here's a version that I made that, actually there's a lot of mistakes and it's kind of really rustic looking, extremely primitive. Some things didn't work out so well, and that's okay. It was a learning experience. But the main thing I wanted to show is that if when you're making the creases to fold up your birch bark and you do get cracks, unwanted cracks that go too far, and you can use pine pitch to seal the crack. And if this was a larger piece, i.e. we're making a birch bark canoe, predominantly pine pitch mixed with bear fat or tallow, which is rendered bovine fat for the most part, would be used to seal the cracks and to seal the seams to make the watercraft watertight. So this, I just wanted to show this in case this happens to you. You can use some pine pitch, super glue will work, or you can just work with the crack. I mean, that's just kind of what it is. So wanted to point that out as a side note.